No mai haere mai, and welcome to Exchange Cafe, where together we have the solutions. Very, very happy to have an amazing set of guests here today. I've got Mike Kiwi from Rewiring Aotearoa and Jay from Rewiring as well as their ecosystem lead. And then we've also got Sam from the GM of Tairāwhiti Environment Centre. I'll flick over to you, Mike, and you can tell us what you do at Rewiring Aotearoa.
Yeah, kia ora hoa, ko Makurui tōku ingoa, he uri tēnei ngō ngai tahu me ngā te kaununu ki Wairoa hoki. So yeah, kia ora, Mike Rewi. I helped found Rewiring Aotearoa in 2022 alongside a bunch of brain boxes, and I was very much on the community and iwi side of the things there. I run a kaupapa Māori trust in Queenstown called Mana Tāhuna, where I know you from, and I work alongside Jay. My passion is ensuring that whānau can be a part of the transition to electrifying their homes, electrifying their lives and reaping the benefits. And I guess just ensuring that everything we do at Rewiring Aotearoa is in a tika way and inclusive of our vulnerable communities. So.
Awesome, thank you, Mike. Jay.
Ai, tēnā koe. Nō tawihi oku tupuna, e whane mai ahau I ahi tareria, I tipu ake au I Toowoomba. Engari e noho ana au I Tamaki Makaurau I nei nei, I raru I te maru o te maunga whau, ko te noho ka takitanga, te marae, ko Jay toko ingoa. Kia ora, my name is Jay. I am the ecosystem lead at Rewiring Aotearoa, and so we have quite a data and quite a policy team at Rewiring who are making it as easy as possible from the system level and from the policy level for whānau to electrify and reap the savings, the emissions benefits, the resilience benefits. But it's my role and alongside Mike here to make sure that communities are a part of that, that we're activating them, that they are educated, that they're informed, that they're excited about this transition, and then to make it as equitable as possible so that it is a tika transition, like Mike was just saying there. So that's my role.
Awesome, thank you, Jay. And Sam.
Kia ora, Sam Rowland. I'm the GM of Tairāwhiti Environment Centre. We work across many environmental kaupapa in the region, so tile space, in waste minimisation, and as well as in community resilience, which is where this energy work fits in. So we're working with a few people in region that are undertaking electrification, energy transition, and just really looking at it from a community resilience to disaster kind of aspect, as well as a climate change aspect too.
Awesome. And Sam, you help bring rewiring to region, is that right, through the Environment Centre? How did that happen?
So our board and our operations team, they've been working pretty closely in the energy space, and we run this monthly event called Green Drinks, which is at Tahu every month, a different kind of topic every time, and we were like, let's do something on energy, and it sort of aligned quite nicely because we had a whole bunch of work going on, a whole bunch of programs happening, and we wanted to get the message out to the community.
Great, that's awesome. Well, Mike, Jay, which one of you wants to describe what rewiring does?
Yeah, I'll kick in. And so Rewiring Aotearoa at its heart is a climate organisation. We're here to help not only make the cheapest energy system possible in New Zealand, but the most renewable energy system as well. And the primary reason for that is that not only is most of our energy still from fossil fuels in New Zealand, we like to pat ourselves on the back for having quite a renewable grid, and we do, and it's a really good thing, and it's due to some really smart thinkers in previous generations investing in things like geothermal or in hydro. But while 70% of our grid is renewable, 80% of our energy system is still on fossil fuels. And we are importing those fossil fuels to run our cars, to run our heaters, to run our water heaters, and the machines that power our everyday lives. And what we're doing is that we're not only importing those fossil fuels, but we're sending the money that it costs to get them straight back overseas. That's not money that's staying in the New Zealand economy. That's not money that's benefiting the whānau in the household or the local businesses. It's going back overseas. And so Rewiring Aotearoa not only saw this opportunity to slash our emissions by getting rid of that fossil fuel dependence, but also to bring cost of living benefits to the people of Aotearoa. Our studies and our research has shown that 25% of our emissions are made up of these small decisions happening in households, happening in businesses, and happening in farms. 25% of our emissions are happening there, and that equates to about $55 million a day that we're spending on these fossil fuels. The opportunity exists to replace those right now. It's in our best interest to do so, and so that's what we're here to do.
All right, well, he's pretty slick. I'll ask Mike the next question. So if you're helping so much, what are you selling us?
Man, we're selling you, support. Well, what we're really passionate about as well is ensuring that whānau can really reap the benefits of it, right? So we have no interest in solar or battery or companies or anything like that. What we're really trying to achieve is lower cost of living for whānau. At the same time, decarbonising our communities. We're very much aware that if we can figure out to get low-income whānau or households as a whole, solar and battery, and reduce their power costs, which essentially is always rising, just like fossil fuels costs are rising. If we can get them solar and battery and bring that cost of living down, that's more pūtea that whānau can spend on food or energy hardship or hauora and stuff like that. So that's why I'm really passionate about it, and that's what I'm selling you, Shannon, is a cheaper way of living so you can spend money where it's really important, especially because it impacts our low-income whānau a bit more.
Okay, so you're selling a dream but not a product.
We're not selling a product,
Yeah.
Amazing.
Registered charity, you can check us out online. We're just really concerned about the rising energy costs that are happening here. One stat that particularly keeps me up at night is the 140,000 households in 2024 that had to take out a loan in order to pay their energy bills. And this is just, again, people that are experiencing energy hardship. And we know that people that are low income are spending more of a proportion of their income on energy. And so not only are we at Rewiring Aotearoa trying to make this energy transition to a fully renewable economy faster, we're here to make it fairer as well. So that's what we're trying to sell you, Shannon.
And I think like bringing that back into a tairāwhiti setting as well, and what we've been looking at, I think, we're in the top 10 highest energy bill prices in the whole entire country. And we know that we have a lot of whānau that are living in energy poverty here in the region, It's like, do I put the heater on to keep my baby warm or afford to buy food for the week? And so we really want to try and support that as much as possible. And the work that you guys are doing is really, you guys are putting out the numbers and you're helping support that transition, and groups like ours to kind of take that and magnify that in region, which is epic.
I guess for me, when we talk about energy poverty, it's poverty, right? Like we don't have the money to make the decisions that we want to make. Yeah. So if I'm in a situation where I'm borrowing money to meet my my monthly power expense, how do I get started in this space? What do I do to make improvements in my life when I'm already at the hard end of the scale?
Yeah, so there's the current problem that we're facing in order to actually make this happen all across Aotearoa is the access to the upfront capital to do it. And sometimes people see this electrification or going from a fossil fuel home to an electric home as one step to make, and that's just not true for most households. The truth is that the machines that are already in your household are due to expire at some point. We know that quite a few of our machines in Aotearoa, let's look at our cars, for example. Our car fleet is an average age of 14.9 years, and most cars are scrapped between 18 to 20 years of life. And so it's not necessarily a question for every household to, can I replace this tomorrow? It's looking ahead to when it's next due to be replaced and making sure that that decision is electric. Then, as much as possible, how can we speed up those decisions as well? And that's where the issue of upfront finance does come back into it, because the sticker price on an electric machine is going to be higher. It's going to look like it's a higher price on the shelf, but the price of it over the 15 years that it will operate for, or longer in cases of some machines, we're now seeing solar panels warranted for 30 years. Batteries are up at that 15-year length. Those machines will save you money over the course of their lifetimes compared to the fossil fuel equivalents, but the sticker price will be higher. And so it's about making sure that we get the upfront finance available to every single household, every single whānau, so that they can make that decision and not lock themselves into 15 years of higher costs and the 15 years of emissions that come with it.
I think just to add to that is like this is very much been a wealthy person's game for a long time, and what we're trying to do is create the situations and settings for low income whānau to be able to participate in this transition as well. And we're very aware that it's going to take a lot, because like you said, whānau are deciding between food on the table. That's not their priorities. This might not even be within their top 5 priorities right now. But if we can enable low-income whānau to access solar and battery through, a lot of the stuff that we're looking to do now is advocacy or incentivising landlords, or our ratepayers assistance schemes. These are all models that we're looking overseas to models that have been successful to get low income whānau solar and battery. Harley Dibble and the team here are doing some really cool things with Trust Tide Aotearoa on distributed energy, so that's a possibility. So how can we share energy and then bring, if I've got solar and battery, how can I bring your energy bill down as well? And models like that are going to be really key to ensuring that everyone can participate in this.
Yeah, so there's so you're suggesting that there's already models we can look at on your site around how to finance these choices?
Yeah, look, there's a range of options that we're looking at Rewiring. The Ratepayers Assistance Scheme is definitely one, which we're going through the local government body to try and enable and enact, and that's financing solar and battery on your rates. There's models overseas where it's rate and situations like Rakiota where we're looking about financing solar and battery on your power bill, so on your utility bill as well. That's an option that we could consider here. And then Harley and the team here with Tonkin and Taylor and Trust Tide Aotearoa is a distributed model where they increase the demand that brings down the cost of the setup. So they're looking to getting it right down to a really affordable price of around $10,000 installed on homes. And so for those that can do it, they can do that. But if not, they can actually share the power throughout the community as well. So there's some options there just that we're really looking at doing.
There's no real upfront cost to that either for those that can't afford it in that distributed energy scheme. So it's still early days, but really could have some really positive benefits for our community.
Yeah.
Amazing. For the environmentalists among us, what about recycling, waste streams? Like, solar panels going to be good long term? Are they going to end up with batteries and panels in the landfill? What's the...
Yeah, this is a really common question. And like with any decision we make, how we power our homes or where we buy our food from, there are going to be what have traditionally been called externalities involved in it. There's going to be impacts outside of the direct procurement purchase. And solar and batteries are going to be the same. There has been a really overblown response to what the waste actually looks like from these things. And so all I want to do is put them in context. I don't want to say it's not a problem, but I do want to put it in context by going, what we know is that the total amount of renewable materials needed between now and 2050 for the world, those total amount of materials are less than the amount of coal we need in 1 year, which is 7 billion tonnes. And so in terms of if we're actually looking at efficiency, if we're actually looking at where the waste is, it's in our fossil fuel-based system. We know in a fossil fuel-based car, for example, only 20% of the fuel that you're putting in are actually propelling that car forward. The rest is lost to heat, to vibration, and to noise. If we get an EV as the equivalent in that situation, 80% of the quote-unquote fuel that you're putting in is going to moving that car forward. And so the amount of waste that's happening is actually far less.
Yeah, I'll just say too is that there's a lot of myths, and we really love debunking myths at Rewiring as well. And I've got an EV, and the myth is that you have to replace the batteries within 2 years. I've had mine 4 years, and I haven't spent one cent on maintenance or fixing my car, and my my battery cycle life is still at around 95%. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm still driving cars that are 30 years old or more. I think my newest car is like 30 years old. So yeah.
I'd love to work with you on the maths and the calculations to get you into EV, Shannon.
I think I've gone for the opposite, which is the save it from the scrap heap kind of model. But ultimately, I can see a electric future for myself anyway. It's always been amongst all of my priorities in this world, how do I take that first step into electrification? And it's and I see the benefits, and I hear that like now essentially it'll pay itself off over what sort of duration. If I was to have an EV, solar panels and battery, like what's my return on investment look like? How soon does it pay itself off against?
Yeah, this is a favorite question of anyone who's looking into this. And the only problem that comes with answering it is that the answer is changing very rapidly. The cost of these machines have come down so fast that a few years ago, we might have told you it was somewhere around 10 years. We might tell you today it's somewhere around 5 to 7 years. That will change so soon because the cost of producing these is just coming down really rapidly. And so it will depend on the household. And there are some really cool tools out there now that can show you that sort of information. We at Rewiring have a household calculator. So if you do want to put in in online, these are the machines in my home, this is about the size system I would consider. Or if you don't have the expertise to know what that might look like, you can just use the defaults that are sitting in the calculator already and figure out, okay, this is the cost of that, these are the savings of that, as well as this is what an approximate payback period might be. You'll see that it is actually much shorter. And what we therefore need in order to be able to incentivize people to do this is we need to give them access to the long-term loans that get them through that period, right? We have some of the banks offer at the moment some green loans, which will give you 1% or 0% finance over 3 or 5 years. Those are some good products. They have some problems to them as well in terms of accessibility. If you don't have a mortgage, if you're a pensioner, if you're asset rich but income poor, they obviously don't help renters. There's some of those issues. But if the people can access them, great. But what they don't do is they don't give people the access to a long-term loan. And it's things through, Mike mentioned before, the Ratepayers Assistance Scheme, which is looking at maybe a slightly higher interest rate, but for a longer period of time. So essentially, you're using the savings that you get every single month on your power bill to pay for the machinery that you upgraded. You are net in the positive there. You're actually getting a benefit out of it.
Awesome. I've got television production studios, and they are energy consumers, obviously. But when I'm thinking about my house and my one laptop I might run there versus my studio and the 30 or 40 computers that are on right now, plus all the other equipment, what does electrification look like for industry? And am I better to make my investment on the roof of this building than I am at home? Or probably both, I imagine.
Yeah, happy to say both to that one, Shannon. The answer is, do you want your bills to be cheaper at work? Do you want your bills to be cheaper at home? Oops, both. The truth is that your laptop probably isn't actually the big power consumer in your home, and potentially not here at your workspace either. For most places, let's talk about a home for a second actually. If we don't include the car, 30% of your energy bill is coming from the way you heat your home. Another 30% is coming from the way you heat your water, and then the rest fits into 30%. So that's your fridge, that might be your laptop, or you're charging your phone, or your barbecue, if you do have an electric one, for example. Your business will look fairly similar in terms of the heating of the space will be quite a big cost, and then it will depend on what other things your business is doing, of course. The more that you can move those machines onto electric, and if you really want to get the most out of the savings, the more that you can power them off your own rooftop electrons rather than overseas molecules, the more you'll save. So you're going to want to do it at both.
Awesome.
I have a follow-up question on that. So can you put solar panels on your roof and divert the power all the way to, say, your hot water cylinder, or does it go to anything that's in your house that's you've got plugged into the wall at the time and running?
Yeah, this is a great question, and it's something that you might find you get a different answer from your solar installer compared to what you might find online. And the truth is that your solar panel can be set up with as many smarts as you want. In fact, if we're just to ignore solar for a second, and then I'll come back to your question, a lot of households right now could actually save quite a bit on their bills if they just put a timer on their hot water system. Because what that'll do is, if they can heat their hot water at a time of day where it's cheaper, because we know our electricity peaks, or the price peaks in the morning when everyone is having a shower and cooking their food, and in the evening when they come from home from work and they're doing the same thing. If they were to just shift when their water is being heated, there's actually some significant savings that can happen there as well, and take advantage of our very renewable grid. Now, if we added solar again, you're going to see a much more substantial amount of savings, and it's going to be directed into the parts of the home where that greater energy use is. And we actually see many households, particularly with how cheap solar panels are these days, they're getting systems that are bigger than their household requirements, which means they're not having to choose what machine it actually runs. It runs all of their household needs, and then where possible, it even exports some of that excess power back to the grid, or if you do get a battery, it can charge up your battery. And so you're not making those kinds of decisions in most cases, because it's cheaper to get an overpowered solar array on your house and do that in the one install than to invite their installer back in 5 years when you have regrets over how small of a system you got.
I like the industry one, Shannon. You know, we're seeing, especially up in a place like Tairawhiti in the horticulture sector, you know, we're seeing like our CEO, Mike Casey's done the maths, done the calculations. Our team's done the study on electrified farms and the electrification of fossil fuel machines on farm, the electrification of the buildings on farms, but also then the ability to export that back into the grid for a premium and make money as a revenue stream for these industries as well. So if you're looking at putting electric on here and the settings are right with your EDB, with your lines companies, there's actually a revenue stream there for you as well.
There was an article about that recently as well, right? Like, I think, is the government looking at putting the price up when you put back into the grid of solar?
Yeah, well, you know, Mike Casey is a clever cookie, and so what he'd actually done was develop a tech platform himself. You know, so he's from the tech world originally, and so his platform sells power back to the grid at peak time. So he makes a premium on that, and then when it's off peak time, he uses that solar himself on farm. And so I think he's now got a ground mount, and I think that costs him about 150k, and he generates 40k a year in revenue from that.
Yeah, and obviously the consumer or the household is really what they should be called. They're not going to be playing this wholesale market game. They're not probably going to have the relationship with their local lines company to advocate for that. And so what you're referring to there, Sam, was a recent announcement by the Electricity Authority, which said that they're going to make sure that every single retailer, your Genesis, your Contact, whoever it is, that they offer competitive export prices so that you are getting fairly rewarded for the energy you're pushing back. I think it's kind of important there to pause as well, because it's really exciting to get into the conversation around you can get paid from your retailer in order to export some energy back. And that is exciting, but I kind of like to call that the cherry on top of this electrification or this solar deal. You're going to make the most in terms of savings. You're going to get the most benefits by using as much of it as you can at home, by getting a battery for example, for resilience reasons, and that's going to be very important for whānau here in Tairawhiti. I don't need to go into the reasons why there. It's very acute here that people have resilience top of mind. And so being able to use and store it and share it wherever possible is ultimately where you'll get your bang for buck. And then exporting it is a really nice to have on top of that.
Awesome. Well, I guess the question then is, what role are central government, local government playing in this? How do are we seeing good support come through? Obviously, enforcing deals with retailers is probably a good thing, because like power generation and retail aren't regulated like transmission, right? So they're kind of playing without us if we don't get government support.
Yeah, there has been some good support and some announcements coming through for central government. We recently got announcements relating to clarifying consenting rules on rooftop solar. We've gotten some really good announcements for farms who are looking at doing this. It has never been more compelling to be a farm and to be looking at getting solar on your farm. So not a solar farm, but solar on farm, which can be a bit confusing. Some good announcements in that way. We do need to see some increased ambition from all levels of politics, local government, central government, around making this realisable for Aotearoa. And one of the really cool things is that we have Australia right next door, who started their solar revolution, 15 years ago. And we can learn from every single decision they've made along the way about how to actually make this faster, make this fairer, and at the end of the day, benefit all New Zealanders. So we're getting some good traction, and we are an advocacy body ourselves, so getting some good traction with governments. The really exciting opportunity for local governments right now, and I note that local elections are coming up in just a couple of months now, is that there is an opportunity to support the Ratepayers Assistance Scheme, which we've mentioned a few times now. That would be funneled, we would use local governments as the channel for it, essentially, where people through an online portal, they'd be able to go on and select their upgrades. It would direct them to a local installer who will come and implement those upgrades, and then the resident will pay it back through their rates over time. The councils right now have an opportunity to sign on and show their support for this scheme whilst it's still in its development phase, so that when it's being rolled out too, they're going to have a huge role to play, not only in administering it, but also in educating their communities and getting people excited and actually adopting it, making sure the uptake is there, as well as bringing the wraparound support that's necessary for it. I mentioned at the start that part of my role is to support electric communities across the country. There's 30 of them now, and that's what those groups are doing as well. And so there's a really important role for local governments to be empowering those groups and leaning on the wisdom and the knowledge that lies in local communities in order to support their local community through this transition.
I'll just add to, we're seeing a lot of support from government within. Like Jay and I are right in the middle of an electrified marae report. So how do we, lay the blueprint down for any marae on any spectrum of your marae and capability to access resourcing, financing, your iwi and your iwi structures. How do those marae able to and have the blueprint to electrify the marae for resilience or climate or in natural disasters, and how do they do that? And we are seeing a few government bodies keen to be a part of that and keen to support that. We've got ICA, we've got MB, and we've got Te Puna Kōkiri that are really keen to look at that, and especially for Tairāwhiti and you guys, so I just had a hui with Rongo Whakaasa, and I said, you've got to strike while the iron's hot, and really put a case forward to electrify your marae up here for that resilience piece and for that distributed energy for whānau.
Amazing. All right, let's stick with you, Mike, and we'll ask you, if we were in a lift, what's your pitch to get me to change?
It was you, Shannon? Man. My pitch for you, Shannon, because I know you and I know you're whānau-centric and community-minded. My pitch to you would be look around at the energy hardship that this district experiences, the energy poverty that's around here. We've just discussed the amount of money that could be saved for whānau around the dinner table to then spend on other things that are important, like education, like health, a whole array of things, is so strong that all they need is someone that can walk alongside them, come have that cup of tea, build that relationship, build that trust, and walk them through the journey of electrification. And it requires community leaders like yourself, to actually have those cups of teas, lay the blueprint down and walk whānau through this journey, because it's not an easy one, and it's it takes that kind of capability and that learning. So that's why I'm here, that's what I'm passionate about, and that's what I think someone like yourself could get behind as well.
Oh, more leadership responsibility.
It's an election year again, Shannon, it's not too late.
No one's electing me anymore, mate. I guess we'll flick across and ask for one piece of advice on how to start for a general consumer.
Yeah, I think the most important thing you can do is map your upgrades out, is figure out how old the machines are in your home already, and you can do so by having a look at them, you may have been in your home for some time, you may understand that already. Figure out when they're due to expire and make sure you plan to upgrade before they do. One thing that we see too commonly is that people, they have their hot water system, it maybe runs off LPG, runs off gas, and when that goes out, what's the first thing you're worried about? You're not worried about costs, you're not worried about the upfront price or the long-term emissions of that machine. You're worried about having a hot shower that night, making sure your kids can shower the next morning. And so too many times we're seeing households replace like for like, we're seeing this upfront sticker price being the dominant factor, and then people being locked into, like I said, another 15 years of higher costs, energy costs, as well as higher emissions. And so by mapping out your upgrades and figuring out, okay, my hot water system is already 13 years old, this is something I need to be looking at now, or okay, my hot water system is a bit younger, but my heater is where it's at. Or maybe you've got an electric home already and therefore you're ready to start looking at the solar panels. I'll tell you what most New Zealanders need to consider, given the adoption rates are quite low, is the EV. And we have quite a second-hand market now coming through where it's becoming much more affordable. In fact, many people like to point out to us that there's no clean car discount anymore. What's true though is that cars now, EVs, are cheaper than they were with the clean car discount applied at the time. And so it's the case where people can get into an EV now and see the emissions benefits, but immediately start saving on the $250 plus a month that they're paying for petrol, which is a part of your energy subscription. So by mapping out your upgrades, including the car, you can actually have a go at when these things will make sense for you. And then you have the really fun question of going, can I actually do it sooner than anticipated? Because the longer you wait, the more savings you leave on the table.
Sam looked like she was keen to jump in on that.
Just because we were mentioning EVs and converting to those, so many times at Tairāwhiti Environment Centre we have people coming through the door and we get in these discussions around petrol and diesel cars versus EVs and the battery discussion, around EVs and how it's really bad. We're mining all this material and then you can't dispose of it properly. So I wonder if you guys have any advice on that, what do you know on that and what can we tell people?
Yeah, it's actually quite a similar story to what we were saying before about the total energy, the total materials needed for the energy transition. Again, batteries do have a component of it that needs to be mined. And we know that most of our mining for batteries is for lithium, and we know that most of that's coming out of Australia. And so it's actually not quite as dire as some of the other mining capacities. We do need to make sure all mining is ethical. We do need to make sure that mining is done in as humanitarian a way as possible. And then we need to make sure we get the most out of those machines whilst they're here and reuse them afterwards as well. And the good news about all the components that are going into batteries, like your silver or your copper or your lithium, is that those are very high value materials. And so people aren't going to want to leave them in batteries in piles or in tips, rubbish tips. They're going to want to get the value back out of those in order to use. It's really, we're in a bit of a funny position where the EV transition is still so young, where we don't have an industry developed, especially not one here in New Zealand, that's focused on the recycling or the reclaiming, I should say, of those EV batteries. And so we've got some people really concerned about that. And I'm glad, because we need those people around to make sure that it's ready when we need it. But what we need to be focusing right now is on the amount of coal, oil, the ash that's going in the air, the fossil fuels that we're wasting, which is the real waste of the moment, and that's what's powering our everyday lives at the moment. And that's again, just the context of those two things really points out where the real waste is happening.
Yeah, and just to support that, I mean, that's true of, and like Jay says, we have to be really mindful of ethical mining, but that's even more true within fossil fuel mining and the stuff that's in our phones and in our laptops as well. So
I'm going to get Sam to close us up with a little plug for Tairāwhiti Environment Centre, but before we go there, I was just I had the thought about the amount of kāinga ora homes that have been built in this region recently. I personally, I've got a little development of 6 houses to do, and I'm thinking there must be more to it than just thinking about solar and battery. Is there anything that's high tech, future focused that I should also be thinking about? Is it like centralized battery storage for small communities, for papakainga, for like, what is there out there for for collectivizing?
Yeah. There's already some really good kāinga ora examples of putting solar. So in Porniki and Wellington, they've already got some really good examples of about 100 homes that are solar and battery. Through the Electric Marae report, we've got a really good example, Kia Whittinga in Manawatu, which is several marae that have a centralised solar system on these marae, and they're distributing energy and powering 30 homes. So these are things that, again, when I talk to Ronga Whakaata, that are really good options for those that they have the ability to put solar and battery on a marae potentially and then distribute it through into these homes. You are right, Kia Whittinga has a tech platform made by John Campbell at Our Energy, and he's the technology behind it that allows them to distribute it and issue these credits for whānau in their homes. So there is a bit to it, and it definitely does require your EDB, so First Light here in Tairāwhiti, being on board and being at the table for these conversations to be able to distribute that energy to your homes and your development. But it's definitely something we should be looking at. It's definitely something that low-income communities that have the ability through a marae or a focal point in their community, like a hub, should be looking at for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Sam, tell us about the green energy drinks and what else the Tairāwhiti Environment Centre have going on.
Oh, sure. So Tairāwhiti Environment Centre, we're located at 386 Palmerston Road. So we're open to everyone, so come and visit us. We have a bunch of product stewardship schemes, so you can come and recycle things like your batteries, your office e-waste, your Tetra Paks from your soy milk and what else like that. We also have a bunch of programs where we work out in the community, so a lot around nature, tile space, and a lot around other waste minimisation kaupapa, like construction and demolition waste and that sort of stuff. And every month we have these green drinks. So tonight is Energy, which by the time that this is launched, it'll be over. But follow us on Instagram and on Facebook to stay up to date with what we do in that space.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. It's been an amazing chat about energy. I'll definitely have to take another look at my machines and when they're expiring, because I typically live with old junk in my house. And,
30-year-old car there, Shannon.
yeah. Like I keep things longer than I should. I openly admit that, but I am due. So yeah, hopefully I can take a leadership position. And take a step forward into the space myself. And this chat is inspiring. Thank you.
Awesome. Cheers, Shannon.
Thanks.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks, everyone.